Alrighty hosses, welcome back, and in this video I'm going to show you how to create different layouts for different types of devices. Now the easiest way to explain this is actually just to show you an example, a bunch of examples. So that's what I'm going to be doing, and for the first one, let's say that we're making some kind of social network, I don't know, maybe we'll call it the newboston.com, whatever, and we were designing the user stream, the page where they scroll through all their friends' posts. Now, whenever we're looking at this on a phone, each post we want to take up the entire width of the screen. You know, use the most space, phones aren't that big, it looks great. Now, if we try to do this on a desktop, imagine looking at it on a desktop and every single picture took up the entire width of the screen, it would look a little bit goofy. So say on phones, take up the entire width, but on desktops, take up half the width. So phones, entire width. Desktops, each post is going to take up half the width. So how do we accomplish this? Well, everything in Bootstrap that we want to be responsive, we need to stick inside a row, and then we make a whole bunch of columns. Alright, so up until now, whenever we made a column, we just said something like column MD, whatever, and we used the same one for every single thing, and we kind of let Bootstrap take care of all the hard work. Well, this is how we accomplish different layouts for different devices. So we add a column. Now remember, on a phone, which is an extra small device, we want it to take up the entire width of the screen. So that means 12, since Bootstrap uses a 12 column system. Now for desktops, desktops are MD, which are medium devices, desktops, laptops. These are just normal computers. We'll say whenever you run this on a desktop, take up 6 columns, which would be half the screen. And just so we have something to look at, let me change the background to like light blue. And actually, let me say this. And why are you giving me... Look at this. It suggested the name light blue to me, and then it told me there's a typo in it. Well, maybe you shouldn't have gave me a typo when... Or maybe you shouldn't have suggested it if you're just going to give me a freaking typo, so that's your fault. Alright, so now let me just change these colors so it's a little bit easier to see. So, what do we have? Blue. That's what I like about IntelliJ too. Look at these. These colors pop up, so you can actually change them right from here, which is pretty sweet. And, alright, good enough. Let me run this. Alright, so check it out. I'm looking at it on a desktop right now, so each of these little posts or images, whatever they would be, they're going to take up half the width of the screen. And then if I was looking at it on my phone, which is a smaller device, they would take up the entire width of the screen. A brilliant user experience. Now, let me just run one more little example like this, just so we have something else to play with. So say that, I don't know, like maybe on phones, I'll say a half, and for desktops, they can take up a third. And let me change this right there, and maybe right there. And for some reason, this text color is kind of bothering me, since every other one is a name. And let me just change this right there. And alright, so for phones, since we want to take up half of the screen, we're going to change all these to 6. So 6, 6, 6. Now for desktops, since we want those to take up a third, what's a third of 12? I think it's 4. Do the math and check it out. So this is a desktop, and remember, on a desktop, 4 goes into 12 3 times. Now on phones and smaller devices, check it out. Each of these little sections take up half of the width of the screen. So maybe you want to like the user's menu bar on the left, and maybe like all their content on the right. Whatever you want to do, get creative. Now another cool thing I want to show you guys is how to offset columns. And by offsetting columns, I mean, you see how this green column, or this little green section right here, is directly under this blue section, well, sometimes you want to indent it a little bit, so you don't want it to start until like right here where my mouse is. So how do you kind of offset it from the side a little bit? Well, I'll be like offsetting columns. Offsetting, is that not a word? I thought it was. Interesting. Alright, so div class row and div columns right in there. Alright. So what we would do here is let's just give it a column of like MD4. So it's going to take up a third of the screen whenever you're looking at it on a desktop. And let me just put 4 wide or something in here. And give it a color too. Alright, so we got one little chunk and it's taking up a third whenever we're going to look at it on the desktop. Now, if I wanted to make another row underneath it, but I wanted this to be offset by a little bit, what I can do is this. I can make pretty much the same exact thing, but I can pass in one other class, and that's column MD offset, and we'll offset it by like 2, whatever. So in other words, it's not going to start right up against the left side, it's going to go 2 over and then start. So if I run this, check it out. So this one, we just said take up a third of the screen, which it did, and this red one right here, it's also taking up a third of the screen, but we offset it. In other words, you said before you begin, move 2 columns over and then do your thing. Now remember whenever you're doing this that you wasted 2 columns on offsetting, so you don't have 8 other columns to work with, you only have 6, since 2 for offsetting plus 4. So and that wasn't me, that was not me. Alright, now the last thing I want to show you is how to nest rows. So say that like you had a little chunk right here, or let's do it this way. So say that each of these were like a post for your social network, and inside here you also wanted to create a bootstrap. So you pretty much wanted to take a layout and stick it inside another layout, but you wanted to make it all responsive. Sounds confusing, right? Well, it's actually pretty easy. And let me scroll up so you guys, all of that is out of sight, out of mind. So nesting rows. So let's just go ahead and make a generic div and class row div class, and we'll just say that we're making like a column that's 9 wide. So we won't make it take up the entire screen. We'll say column on desktops and every device. Actually, this is going to take up 9 out of 12, which is 3/4 of the screen. Alright, so here is our main content. We'll say that like, hey, I went to the movies today. So this is, like some girls post on some social network, and inside here we wanted to make another section, let's say for the comments, that was also responsive. Well, all we have to do is we start making, actually let me separate this so it's a tidbit easier to see. We start making that entire structure again. So div class row and Haas. So div class column, and we can do whatever we want here. So MD, and let's just put 2 in here, so 6. Now remember, whenever you have the columns right here, even this took up 9. This new structure that you're making is using this as a reference, so it's pretty much looking at it as an entire new screen. Now remember, you still can't exceed 12 columns, but even if this is 9, you can have 12 columns in here, just no more than that. So we'll say in here, I'll just say like child 1, and let me just give it a style. So background, what's this, like light blue. Let me add one more. And this will be light salmon, light slamming. And probably should add a color to the outside or else it may look a tidbit goofy. So the outside will give it, what's a good color? Light sea green. And also let me add some padding so you guys can really see easily what the heck is going on. So it'll be like 30 pixels. Give it some huge padding. Alright, so check this out. The parent took up 9 out of 12 columns. So 3/4 of the screen. Now the children that were inside, this entire thing is based on a 12 column system. So child 1, and I named them both child 1 for some reason. So child 1 is taking up 6, and child, which should be child 2, is taking up 6 as well. So remember, every time you make a new row, you get 12 more columns. And if you wanted to, you can actually do something like this. So you can have each of these on a new row. So child 1 and child 2, and changes to like light coral. So now, instead of being side by side, they're each on a new row, and they're each going to take up half of the parent, which looks like this. So there you go. Now, usually in here, you'd want to do something like have them span all 12 columns, and that's how like comments usually work whenever you're looking at a post or whatever. But there you go. Hopefully you guys understand how to use multiple columns in multiple classes for creating different dynamic types of layouts for different devices. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed. See you next time.